Hi everyone, my name's Natalia and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite books and one of the best retellings I've ever read, the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So I've read these pretty recently and I have to admit this book completely destroyed me, but it also got me thinking a lot about what makes a retelling actually work. So today I want to talk about this book, and also I want to break down why I think the Song of Achilles is a perfect example of a retelling done right. First, let's talk about what this book is about. The author has said that her main inspiration for the Song of Achilles was the Iliad. But the book also covers events before and after the Iliad, so really you could say it's a retelling of the full story of Achilles and Patroclus. So heads up, I'll be mentioning some of the key events that happen in both the Iliad and the Song of Achilles, so if you're not familiar with this story, you might want to watch this later if you want to avoid spoilers. So Patroclus in the original myth is more like a side character. He's Achilles' companion, maybe his best friend, maybe more, but we're never really told. We know that Achilles really cares about him and that he grieves for him, but we do not know the whole nature of their relationship. So in this book, Patroclus becomes the narrator. After a tragic accident, Patroclus is exiled from his kingdom and sent to live in the court of Achilles' father. That's where he first meets Achilles. They start to spend more and more time together and they slowly start to get to know each other. So yeah, I feel like their bond really developed during that time, and slowly what started off as a friendship turned into them having more of romantic feelings towards each other. Patroclus and Achilles train together under the centaur Chiron, who teaches them skills and helps shape who they become. Achilles is also haunted by a prophecy. If he goes to Troy, he'll die young but become immortal in fame. Despite the risks, both he and Patroclus choose to go to Troy together when the war begins, setting the stage for everything that follows. I feel like in the original myth, the focus is strongly placed on the politics or the gods or the battles, but this book just really focuses on Patroclus and Achilles' relationship, on their slow burn friendship turned romance, because in this interpretation they are lovers. It somehow just changes everything. It makes the grief, the sacrifice, and Achilles' rage feel just so much deeper. I'm not trying to say that platonic love or friendship cannot be powerful. Obviously, you can end up loving your friend so much that you will be distraught without them, but I just feel like when the story is told as a romance, it just hits in a different, more visceral way. That's how I feel personally. Maybe because I'm a romantic girly at heart, and I feel like this retelling just takes this myth that most people either know or have heard about, and it reimagines it as something deeply personal. What makes a retelling good? So before I dive into why I think the Song of Achilles is a good retelling, let's take a step back and think about what makes a good retelling in general. Let's be real, retellings are everywhere, from Greek myths to Jane Austen to fairy tale reimaginings. For me, a great retelling does basically three things. Number one, it respects the source material. Obviously, it does not mean that the retelling has to be a line-for-line copy, but it should engage with the original story in a meaningful way. It should understand what made this story compelling in the first place. So a good retelling should reframe the story but still honor the core of it. Obviously, I don't think that stories shouldn't evolve, but I think they should not lose the emotional truth that made them matter in the first place. So yeah, I guess if a retelling forgets what the story was originally trying to say, or just treats the source like it's irrelevant, you can usually feel this type of disconnect. For example, let's come back to our book. I feel like the Song of Achilles doesn't dismiss the Iliad, but it builds from it. It honors the myth's idea about fate, pride, and heroism, but it still adds something new. It shifts the focus and everything. It really transforms the story. Like, the author just shows us the same events that happened in the Iliad, but shown through the eyes of someone that was sidelined in the original story. Number 2, it makes you feel something new. Okay, so this is a big one. A good retelling doesn't just remind you of the story, but it makes you experience it differently. Sometimes that means maybe it hits harder and you're like, oh, that's what this character was going through. Or sometimes it introduces a different kind of emotion entirely. For example, turning a heroic epic into personal tragedy. So that is what Madeline Miller does. She takes this great war myth and just turns it into the slow burn love story. We just feel these characters as if they are human, and not these like great mythical heroes. So why do I think this book is such a good retelling? Let's talk about it. Let's break it down into these like key features that I think are what makes retelling so good. First of all, we've got deep characterization. So like I said before, in the original story, like these characters, especially Achilles, he's this mythic figure. He's like nearly superhuman, but in this book we just see him through Patroclus' eyes. We see a lot of his flaws. We see like a more soft side for him that he usually reserves only for Patroclus. And I feel like Patroclus just sees him, not as this amazing superhuman warrior that everyone loves and admires, but he just sees him as his soulmate, and it's beautiful. Through his eyes, Achilles is no longer this golden warrior, but we just see the boy beneath the armor. And Patroclus, who in the original myth plays a relatively underdeveloped role, is given a full emotional and psychological world here. Miller takes a character often defined only by his relationship to Achilles and makes him the emotional heart of the story. Second is emotional intimacy. Like I said, in the original, we do not really know the real nature of their relationship, but this book does not shy away from the fact that it is a love story. She makes their relationship feel so layered and so like real. They have these quiet moments, they have some fights. There's this longing and vulnerability, and you can just feel their love for each other. There's just no ambiguity here, and if we feel that love grow in real time. There is this line that I feel like really portrays it very well, so let me read it to you. I could recognize him by touch alone, by smell. I would know him by blind, by the way his breaths came and his feet struck the earth. I would know him in death, at the end of the world. Yeah, I feel like this quote just really showcases the depths of the relationship. Okay, the next key feature of the Song of Achilles is the fact that it respects the source. We've got these like key events that take place in both the Iliad and the Song of Achilles. So, we've got the prophecy, the Trojan War, the doomed fate, and all of that. So the key events are basically the same. This isn't a story that's like, let's make Achilles modern and give him a motorcycle or something like that. It's just a retelling that treats the original with respect. All the major plot lines are basically the same. I feel like the author just doesn't stop at what happens, but she really dives deep into why it happens and why it matters emotionally. So by respecting the original story but like fleshing it out a little bit, she makes it feel like something that is both familiar and also entirely new at the same time. And also like at the heart of like almost every Greek tragedy is this like impossible question: if you know your fate, do do you still have free will? Achilles is told that if he will go to Troy, he will die, but his name will live forever. And he goes anyway. In the original myth, that's like a moment of glory. In this book, it becomes a moment of grief because we see all these events through Patroclus' eyes, and it's not just Achilles choosing glory, but also in a way choosing to leave Patroclus behind, choosing a future that they can share. So I feel like it just transformed this noble myth into something just raw and real and deeply human. One more thing I really love about this book is the writing, the beautiful lyrical writing. I'm such a sucker for like a beautiful prose, and Madeline Miller definitely delivers it. I definitely don't think that it's like hard to read it in any way. I feel like the hardest part about this is probably just like the sheer amount of names, especially if you're not like very knowledgeable in the Greek mythology, but the author herself said that you can read her books even if you do not know anything about Greek mythology, because she makes these stories in a way that hopefully everyone can enjoy them. So it is a very accessible book, but the writing is very beautiful, and it has some of the most gut-punching quotes I've ever read in my whole life. And, someone might ask, but, if we know how the Iliad ends, then we kind of know the ending of the book, so what's the point of reading it? Well, I feel like knowing the ending does not make it any less tragic in any way, and it does not make this story less compelling. In a way, it makes it worse because you know what's going to happen. It feels like watching a car crash in slow motion. You feel the dread building because you know how things will end, but you basically cannot do anything to stop it. So in a way, it is really, really terrifying. So yeah, the author does not try to surprise you in any way, but she makes you watch it happen slowly, painfully, with full awareness. And I feel like in a way that's even worse. She does not rely on like crazy plot twists. She just relies on her own storytelling, and I feel like that's beautiful. That is why I think The Song of Achilles is a great retelling, and I gave it 5 stars in case you're interested, and it is definitely one of my top reads of this year. It is such a good book, and I highly recommend you give it a chance if you haven't picked it up already. Okay, so if you've read this book, tell me, did it also destroy you? What did you think about it? And obviously, if you have any other retellings that you love, then also feel free to share them in the comments below. I love a good recommendation. So if you guys recommend me anything, I'll definitely check it out. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to like 1,000 subscribers, hopefully. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!